The winter streets were merciless that night. A homeless mother wrapped her thin coat tighter around her newborn, but the baby's lips were turning blue. Just when hope seemed lost, a black car pulled up, and out stepped a feared Mafia boss with his little daughter. The little girl tugged his sleeve and cried, "Daddy, her baby is freezing!" What happened next would not only save a life, it would shock everyone who witnessed it. Stay with me until the end, because this story will leave you speechless. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video, hit subscribe, and comment where you're watching from. Now, let's get started. December 23rd, 2023, downtown Chicago. The temperature had dropped to -15 degrees, and the wind cut through the streets like broken glass. Most people were safe inside their homes, preparing for Christmas morning with their families, but not everyone had that luxury. What I'm about to tell you is a true story that changed 3 lives forever. A story that proves humanity can emerge from the most unexpected places. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why sometimes the most unlikely heroes are the ones who save the day. But first, let me paint the picture of just how desperate this situation had become. Maria Santos was 22 years old. 3 weeks earlier, she had given birth to her son David in a hospital charity ward. No family, no support system, no place to call home. The father had disappeared the moment he learned about the pregnancy, leaving Maria with nothing but medical bills she couldn't pay and a future that looked impossibly dark. For 3 weeks, she had been moving from shelter to shelter, but Chicago's homeless services were overwhelmed during the winter months. Every night was a gamble. Every morning was a miracle that both she and David had survived. On this particular night, December 23rd, Maria found herself on the streets again. The shelter had reached capacity at 6 p.m., and she was turned away with just a thin hospital blanket and the clothes on her back. David was wrapped in a donated receiving blanket that had seen better days. As the hours passed, Maria's situation became critical. She tried to find warmth in doorways, under bridges, anywhere that might shield them from the brutal wind. But nothing worked. David's crying had grown weaker, and his tiny lips were taking on that terrifying blue tinge that every mother dreads. By 11 p.m., Maria was walking the streets in desperation, hoping to find an all-night diner or gas station that might let them stay warm for just a few hours. That's when she spotted it, a small alcove next to an old brick building. Not much protection, but better than nothing. She settled into the concrete corner, pulling David close to her chest, trying to transfer what little body heat she had left. The baby's breathing was becoming shallow, and Maria knew they were running out of time. In her heart, she began to pray for a miracle she wasn't sure would come. Meanwhile, across the city, a completely different story was unfolding. Vincent Romano was a man who commanded respect through fear. For 15 years, he had built an empire in the shadows of Chicago's underworld. Money laundering, protection services, and business dealings that existed in the gray areas of the law. His name was whispered in back rooms and boardrooms alike. But Vincent had a secret that softened his hardened exterior. 7 years earlier, his wife Elena had died in a car accident, leaving him to raise their daughter Sophia alone. Despite his reputation on the streets, behind closed doors, Vincent was completely devoted to this little girl who had become his entire world. Sophia Romano was everything her father was not. Where Vincent was calculated and cold, Sophia was spontaneous and warm. Where Vincent saw threats and opportunities, Sophia saw people who needed help. At 7 years old, she had already shown a compassion that amazed everyone who met her. On this December night, Vincent was driving Sophia home from her school's Christmas pageant. She had played an angel in the nativity scene, and Vincent had watched from the back row, his heart swelling with pride, despite the curious stares from other parents who recognized him. Sophia was still wearing her white angel costume under her winter coat, chattering excitedly about the performance as they drove through the empty streets. Vincent listened with a rare smile, these moments with his daughter being the only time he allowed his guard to drop completely. They were taking the scenic route home, something Vincent did when he wanted to extend these precious conversations with Sophia. The heated leather seats and warm car interior created a bubble of comfort as they cruised through the city. That's when Sophia's voice suddenly changed. "Daddy, stop the car!" Vincent glanced in the rearview mirror. "What is it, princess?" "There's a lady over there. She looks cold." Vincent slowed the car and looked where Sophia was pointing. In the alcove of the old brick building, barely visible in the shadows, he could make out a figure huddled against the wall. "She's probably just resting, Sophia. We should keep going." But Sophia pressed her face against the window, her breath fogging the glass. "Daddy, I think she has a baby." Vincent's instincts told him to drive away. Getting involved in street situations was dangerous for someone in his position. There were rivals who would love to catch him in a vulnerable moment. There were police who watched his every move. There were 100 reasons to keep driving, but something in Sophia's voice made him hesitate. "Please, Daddy, can we just check if she's okay?" Vincent pulled the car over, his mind racing through the potential complications. He reached under his seat and felt for the pistol he always kept there, just in case. Then he looked back at Sophia, still wearing her angel costume, her eyes full of concern for a stranger. "Stay in the car, Sophia. Lock the doors." "But Daddy..." "Stay in the car." Vincent stepped out into the brutal cold, immediately feeling the wind slice through his expensive wool coat. His breath formed clouds as he approached the alcove, his footsteps echoing off the empty street. As he got closer, he could see that Sophia had been right. A young woman was pressed against the wall, holding something small and still against her chest. Even in the dim light from a distant street lamp, Vincent could see she was shivering uncontrollably. Maria looked up as the shadow fell across her. In her exhausted state, she couldn't make out the man's features, but something about his presence made her instinctively pull David closer. "Miss?" Vincent's voice was gruff, but not threatening. "You can't stay here, it's too cold." Maria's voice was barely a whisper. "I know. I'm trying to find somewhere else." Vincent stepped closer and saw the bundle in her arms move slightly. His expression changed as he realized what he was looking at. "Is that a baby?" Maria nodded, tears freezing on her cheeks. "His name is David. He's only 3 weeks old." Vincent felt something shift inside his chest. He thought of Sophia, safe and warm in the car behind him. He thought of his own comfortable home with its heated floors and security system. He thought of Elena and what she would have done in this moment. Behind him, he heard the car door slam shut. "Daddy!" Sophia had ignored his instructions and was running toward them, her white angel costume flowing behind her like actual wings. "Sophia, get back in the car!" But she was already there, looking up at Maria with eyes full of compassion that seemed far too mature for her 7 years. "Daddy!" Sophia's voice cracked with emotion. "Her baby is freezing!" And in that moment, Vincent Romano, a man who had built his life on calculated decisions and emotional distance, felt his heart break wide open. Vincent knelt down beside Sophia, his expensive shoes scraping against the concrete. The contrast, her pristine angel costume, approaching a homeless woman Anne was striking, his 7-year-old daughter and her dying baby without an ounce of fear or judgment. "What's your name?" Sophia asked Maria gently, her small hand reaching out to touch the edge of David's blanket. Maria's voice shook as she answered. "I'm Maria. This is David." Sophia looked up at her father with determination that Vincent recognized, the same stubborn resolve that Elena had possessed. "We have to help them, Daddy. We have to." For a moment, Vincent Romano stood frozen between two worlds. The ruthless businessman who had spent 15 years building walls around his heart, and the father who would do anything for his daughter. The street was empty except for the 4 of them, but Vincent could feel the weight of this decision settling on his shoulders. He pulled out his phone and speed-dialed his driver, Marco. "Boss?" Marco's voice crackled through the speaker. "I need you to bring the SUV to 5th and Michigan. Now. And Marco, bring blankets from the house. The thick ones from the guest room." "Boss, is everything okay?" Vincent looked down at Sophia, who was now humming softly to David, the baby's cries growing weaker by the minute. "Just do it. Fast." While they waited, Sophia shrugged out of her winter coat and draped it over Maria's shoulders. The gesture was so natural, so immediate, that it took Vincent's breath away. "Sophia, you'll freeze." "I'm okay, Daddy. I have my angel costume. Angels don't get cold." Vincent removed his own coat, a $3,000 cashmere blend, and wrapped it around both mother and child. Maria looked up at him with confusion and gratitude. "I don't understand," she whispered. "Why are you helping us?" Vincent didn't have an answer. 3 hours ago, if someone had told him he would be giving his coat to a homeless woman on the street, he would have laughed. But watching Sophia's face, seeing the pure compassion in his daughter's eyes, something had fundamentally shifted inside him. "Because," Sophia answered for him, "that's what people do. They help each other." The simplicity of her answer hit Vincent like a physical blow. When had he forgotten that basic truth? When had his world become so insulated that helping another human being seemed foreign? Marco arrived within minutes, jumping out of the black SUV with an armload of blankets. His eyes widened as he took in the scene. His boss kneeling on a dirty sidewalk next to a homeless woman, his daughter treating the situation as if it were perfectly normal. "Boss, what do you need me to do?" "Hospital," Vincent said without hesitation. "St. Mary's. Call ahead and tell them we're coming with a woman and infant who need immediate medical attention. Tell them Vincent Romano is personally guaranteeing payment for whatever they need." Marco nodded and got back on his phone. Vincent carefully helped Maria to her feet, supporting her as she cradled David. "I can't pay you back," Maria said, her voice breaking. "I don't have anything." Sophia took Maria's free hand in both of hers. "You don't need to pay us back. That's not how helping works." As they walked toward the SUV, Vincent noticed something that made his blood run cold. David had stopped crying completely. The baby's breathing was so shallow it was barely visible, and his skin had taken on a grayish pallor that Vincent recognized from his darker days in the business. They were losing him. "Marco, drive like hell," Vincent commanded as they climbed into the vehicle. "Run every red light. I'll handle the consequences." The SUV roared to life, and Marco navigated the empty streets with precision. Vincent found himself holding his breath as he watched Maria desperately trying to warm her son, Sophia's small hands helping to massage the baby's tiny fingers. "Stay with us, David," Sophia whispered. "Stay with us, little angel." The hospital appeared ahead of them, and Vincent could see the medical team already waiting outside the emergency entrance. Marco had done his job well. There would be no delays, no insurance questions, no bureaucratic obstacles. As the medical team took over, wheeling David away on a tiny gurney while Maria ran alongside, Vincent stood in the harsh fluorescent lights of the hospital corridor and felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Fear. Not the calculated fear of business rivals or police investigations. This was different. This was the fear of watching an innocent life hang in the balance, and knowing that despite all his power and money, the outcome was completely out of his hands. Sophia slipped her small hand into his. "Is David going to be okay, Daddy?" Vincent looked down at his daughter, still wearing her angel costume. Her face streaked with tears she was trying to hide. In that moment, he realized that everything in his life had led to this point. Every difficult decision, every compromise, every wall he had built around his heart, it had all brought him here, to this hospital corridor. Watching his daughter learn that sometimes being strong meant being vulnerable. "I don't know, Princess," he said honestly, "but we're going to do everything we can to make sure he is." 2 hours later, Dr. Patricia Williams emerged from the pediatric intensive care unit with news that would change everything. Vincent stood up from the uncomfortable plastic chair where he had been sitting with Sophia curled up against his side, both of them still in their formal clothes from the Christmas pageant that seemed like a lifetime ago. "How is he?" Vincent asked. Dr. Williams smiled, the first genuine smile they had seen all night. "He's going to be fine. We got him stabilized, warmed up, and he's responding well. Another hour out there and she didn't need to finish the sentence. Maria collapsed into sobs of relief, and Sophia ran over to hug her around the waist. "Can we see him?" Sophia asked. Dr. Williams nodded. "For a few minutes, but he needs rest." As they walked down the sterile hospital corridor toward the NICU, Vincent felt his phone buzzing with messages. Business calls that seemed insignificant now, meetings that could wait. A world that had consumed his life for 15 years and suddenly felt completely unimportant. But the real transformation was still to come. Through the glass window of the NICU, David looked like a tiny miracle. Tubes and wires surrounded his small body, but his color had returned to a healthy pink. His chest rose and fell in steady rhythm, and occasionally his little fingers would curl and uncurl as he dreamed. Maria pressed her face against the glass, tears streaming down her cheeks. For 3 weeks, she had carried the weight of keeping this precious life safe, and now, surrounded by medical equipment and professional care, she could finally breathe. "He's so small," Sophia whispered, standing on her tiptoes to see better. "But he looks strong now." Vincent watched his daughter's face, seeing something in her expression that he'd never noticed before. Sophia wasn't just looking at David with curiosity or sympathy. She was looking at him with love. Pure, uncomplicated love for a child she'd met just hours ago. Dr. Williams approached them with a clipboard. "Mrs. Santos, we need to discuss David's care plan and your living situation." Maria's face immediately clouded with worry. That's been taken care of." Dr. Williams interrupted to have insurance. "I can't afford." Dee gently, glancing at Vincent. "Mr.'s complete care. But Romano has established a medical fund for DeVito need to address where you'll be staying streets." He'd seen question hung in the air like a weight. Vincent knew that Maria and David couldn't return to the once he's ready for discharge. The inn just one night. But he also knew that his what that cold had done to the baby world was complicated, dangerous, and no his sleeve. "Daddy, they placed for an innocent woman, and Chill could stay with us. We have lots D." Sophia tugged out of rooms. Vincent knelt down to Sophia's level. "Princess, it's not that simple. My life, my work, it's complicated. But Daddy, you always tell me that when something is important, we find a way to make it work." The wisdom in his 7-year-old daughter's words hit Vincent harder than any business rival ever had. She was right, of course. He had always found ways to make the impossible possible when it served his interests. Why should saving a life be any different? Maria shook her head. "I appreciate everything you've done, but I can't accept more charity. I need to figure this out on my own." Vincent studied Maria's face. Even exhausted, even desperate, she carried herself with dignity. There was strength in her eyes, determination that reminded him of Elena. This wasn't someone looking for a handout. This was a mother who had fought to keep her child alive against impossible odds. "What did you do before David was born?" Vincent asked. "I was studying nursing at Chicago State. I had a job at a medical supply company, but I lost it when I couldn't work the last month of pregnancy." Maria's voice carried both sadness and frustration. "I was 3 semesters away from graduating." Vincent felt the pieces of a plan forming in his mind. What if it wasn't charity? What if it was a job? Maria looked confused. "I don't understand." "I own several businesses, legitimate ones," Vincent clarified. "Medical supply companies, healthcare facilities, rehabilitation centers. You finish your nursing degree, and I guarantee you a position that pays well enough to support you and David." "And in the meantime?" Maria asked cautiously. Sophia grabbed Vincent's hand excitedly. "She could live with us. David could have his own room, and I could help take care of him." Vincent saw the hope flicker in Maria's eyes, followed immediately by skepticism. He understood her hesitation. A homeless woman doesn't survive on the streets by trusting strangers, no matter how generous their offers seem. "There's a guest house on my property," Vincent said carefully, "completely separate from the main house. You'd have privacy, security, and independence. In exchange, you'd help with Sophia sometimes when I have to travel for business." Think of it as a live-in childcare position that comes with housing and tuition assistance. Dr. Williams cleared her throat. I hate to interrupt, but David will need consistent care for the next few weeks. Regular checkups, medications, a stable environment. The hospital social worker was going to discuss temporary foster placement. No, Maria's voice was fierce. He's not going into the system. Vincent made his decision. Dr. Williams, please have the social worker call me directly. I'll provide character references and financial guarantees. David stays with his mother. The doctor nodded and made notes on her clipboard. Very well. I'll need to do a home assessment within 48 hours of discharge, but given the circumstances and Mr. Romano's assurances, I think we can make this work. As they walked back toward the waiting area, Vincent's phone rang. Marco's name appeared on the screen. Boss, we have a situation. Tony Marcelli and his crew are asking questions about where you disappeared to tonight. They seem agitated. Vincent stepped away from Maria and Sophia. What kind of questions? They're saying you missed a scheduled meeting, that you were supposed to finalize the Southside territory agreements tonight. Tony's taking it as disrespect. Vincent closed his eyes. In the chaos of saving David's life, he had completely forgotten about one of the most important business meetings of the year. Tony Marcelli controlled the drug trade on Chicago's South Side, and their partnership was crucial for maintaining peace between the families. Where are they now? Rossini's restaurant. They're waiting for you. Vincent looked back at Sophia, who was showing Maria pictures on her phone of their house, chattering excitedly about which room would be perfect for David. His daughter's face was animated in a way he hadn't seen since Elena died. Boss, what do you want me to tell them? Vincent made a choice that would have consequences he couldn't yet imagine. Tell Tony that I had a family emergency. Schedule the meeting for tomorrow night. Same terms, same location. Boss, are you sure? Tony doesn't like to be kept waiting. I'm sure, Marco. Family comes first. As Vincent hung up, he realized what he had just said. Family comes first. When had Maria and David become family? When had he started thinking of them as anything more than strangers he'd helped? Sophia appeared at his elbow. Daddy, Maria says she's scared to trust people because lots of people have hurt her. I told her that you're different, that you protect people you care about. Vincent looked down at his daughter, then over at Maria, who was sitting alone in a plastic chair, staring at her hands. The vulnerability in her posture, the exhaustion in her shoulders, the way she kept glancing toward the NICU as if she needed to make sure David was still safe. Sophia's right, Vincent said as he approached Maria. I do protect people I care about. And somehow, in the span of one night, you and David have become people I care about. Maria looked up at him with tears in her eyes. I don't understand why. You don't even know us. Vincent sat down beside her, his expensive suit contrasting sharply with the sterile hospital furniture. 3 hours ago, I would have agreed with you. But watching Sophia tonight, seeing her compassion, her immediate love for your son, it reminded me of something I'd forgotten. That helping people isn't a transaction. It's just what you do when you see someone in need. And if I say yes to your offer, what happens then? What happens when you get tired of having strangers in your space? What happens when your business associates don't approve of your charity cases? Vincent was quiet for a long moment. Maria's questions were valid, and they touched on concerns he hadn't fully considered. His world was indeed dangerous. There were people who would see Maria and David as weaknesses to exploit, leverage to use against him. But there were also people like Tony Marcelli, who would respect strength when they saw it. And there was something undeniably strong about a man who would risk everything to save a stranger's child. Then we deal with those problems when they come, Vincent said finally. Together. Sophia had fallen asleep in one of the waiting room chairs, her angel costume wrinkled, but still somehow radiant under the harsh hospital lights. Vincent gently lifted his daughter into his arms, feeling the weight of her trust, the complete faith she had in his ability to make everything right. Maria, he said softly, I can't promise that this will be easy. My life is complicated, and there are people in my world who might see you as a target. But I can promise that I will do everything in my power to keep you and David safe." Maria stood up slowly, exhaustion weighing down her every movement. "Why? Really, why are you doing this?" Vincent looked down at Sophia's sleeping face, remembering Elena's funeral, remembering the promises he'd made about raising their daughter to be kind, to be compassionate, to see the good in people. "Because 7 years ago I lost my wife, and for 7 years, I've been so focused on protecting Sophia from the world that I forgot to show her how beautiful the world can be. Tonight," she reminded me, "you and David reminded me." As they prepared to leave the hospital, Dr. Williams approached with final instructions. David would need to stay for observation for at least 3 more days, but his prognosis was excellent. Maria could visit whenever she wanted, and the hospital staff would call immediately if there were any changes. The drive to Vincent's estate was quiet. Sophia slept peacefully in her car seat, while Maria stared out the window at the city passing by. Vincent found himself thinking about the phone call with Marco, about Tony Marcelli's anger, about the delicate balance of power that kept his business empire running smoothly. But mostly, he thought about the moment when Sophia had said, "Daddy, her baby is freezing." 3 simple words that had changed everything. As they pulled through the gates of Vincent's property, Maria gasped. The estate was massive, with manicured lawns and security lights illuminating a world that seemed impossibly far from the street corner where they'd met just hours ago. "The guest house is just through those trees," Vincent explained as Marco parked the SUV. 2 bedrooms, fully furnished, completely private. "There's a security system, but you control it from inside. You're not a prisoner here, Maria. You're a guest who's welcome to stay as long as you need." Maria nodded, still overwhelmed by the magnitude of what was happening. "I keep thinking I'm going to wake up, and this will all have been a dream." Vincent carried Sophia toward the main house, while Marco showed Maria to the guest house. As he tucked his daughter into her own bed, Sophia stirred and opened her eyes. "Is David going to live with us now, Daddy?" "For a while, yes." Sophia smiled sleepily. "Good. I always wanted a little brother." Vincent kissed his daughter's forehead, marveling at the simple way she had processed the evening's events. For Sophia, helping Maria and David hadn't been a complicated decision requiring risk assessment and strategic planning. It had been obvious, natural, right. As Vincent finally changed out of his formal clothes and prepared for bed, his phone buzzed with another text from Marco. Tony Marcelli was not happy about the postponed meeting. There would be consequences for this perceived slight. Complications that Vincent would have to navigate carefully. But for the first time in years, Vincent Romano fell asleep, thinking not about business strategies or potential threats, but about the sound of a baby's healthy breathing and the trust in a stranger's eyes. The next morning would bring new challenges, unexpected alliances, and a test of whether Vincent's 2 worlds could ever truly coexist. But that's a story for tomorrow. Tonight, 3 lives had been forever changed by a simple truth that a 7-year-old girl understood better than any adult. When someone needs help, you help them. 3 days later, Vincent Romano stood in the marble foyer of St. Mary's Hospital, adjusting his tie with hands that hadn't stopped trembling since dawn. Today was discharge day. Today, David would come home, but home had become complicated. The morning newspapers scattered across his mahogany desk told a story Vincent hadn't anticipated. "Chicago crime boss turns Good Samaritan," screamed the Tribune's headline. Below it, a grainy photograph showed Vincent carrying Sophia toward his SUV outside the hospital, with Maria visible in the background. Someone had been watching. Someone had been waiting. His phone buzzed constantly with calls from associates, rivals, and reporters. The careful balance he'd maintained for 15 years between his legitimate businesses and his shadow empire was cracking under the sudden spotlight of public attention. Marco appeared at his elbow, tablet in hand, his usually calm demeanor strained. "Boss, we need to discuss security protocols. The media attention has created vulnerabilities we didn't anticipate." Vincent nodded grimly. He'd spent the morning reviewing surveillance footage from around the hospital, identifying faces he recognized. Tony Marcelli's men had been there. So had representatives from the Castellano family. Everyone wanted to understand what Vincent Romano was really doing. Have you spoken with the hospital about discreet discharge procedures? Already handled. They'll bring David out through the service entrance. No media, no witnesses. Vincent appreciated Marco's efficiency, but he knew this was just the beginning. The moment Maria and David entered his world permanently, they would become pawns in a game they never asked to play. Sofia bounded down the grand staircase, her school backpack bouncing against her shoulders. She'd insisted on going to classes that morning, claiming she needed to tell her teacher about her new baby brother, who would be coming home today. "Daddy, is it time to get David?" Her excitement was infectious, cutting through the tension that had gripped the house since sunrise. Vincent knelt to Sofia's level, his expression serious. "Princess, before we go, we need to talk about some important things." Sofia's smile faltered slightly. She'd learned to read her father's moods with the accuracy of someone who'd grown up in a world where emotional intelligence was survival. "Are people going to try to hurt David and Maria?" The directness of her question caught Vincent off guard. He'd underestimated how much Sofia understood about the complexities of his life. Some people might not understand why we're helping them. They might think it makes us weak or vulnerable. Sofia's eyes flashed with a determination that reminded Vincent so strongly of Elena, it made his chest tight. "But helping people doesn't make you weak, Daddy. It makes you strong." Vincent pulled his daughter close, breathing in her familiar scent of strawberry shampoo and childhood innocence. "You're absolutely right, Princess. But not everyone sees it that way." The drive to the hospital was tense. Marco had arranged for additional security, 2 unmarked cars following at a distance, routes planned to avoid main streets, timing coordinated to minimize exposure. Vincent found himself constantly checking mirrors, scanning faces, evaluating threats. This was exactly what he'd feared. Maria and David weren't just joining his family, they were entering his war zone. And that's how a 7-year-old girl in an angel costume changed everything. Vincent Romano learned that true strength isn't about building walls. It's about tearing them down when someone needs help. Maria and David found more than shelter that night. They found family. Sometimes the most powerful transformations happen not through force, but through the simple words of a child who sees the world as it should be.